Okay. Okay. Sorry. Right. There was a small power cut. So let's continue the part two. Okay. So we're discussing structure of the kidney. All good, right? Yes. So these are called. So this is the, you can say, outer layer. This is the outer layer that you can call as outer cortex. Outer cortex, and these are your renal pyramids. These are called your pyramids. Right. So pyramids contain the pyramids. No need break. Good. Right. So these are called your pyramids. The pyramids, they have these sort of lines and lines and lines. What do you call those lines? Yes, you don't need to know, because those lines are given to these pyramids because of the collecting ducts. Okay, collecting ducts of the nephrons give these sort of lines and lines structure. Right. So out comes from here. Right. This is called the renal pelvis. Right. You don't. Yes, it's given in your syllabus as well. Renal pelvis. Second, you have the output of urine, that is sort of, that is called the, yes, this is the ureter that is coming down towards the bladder. The ureter coming down towards the bladder. Also, your kidneys, I mean, they should, I mean, kidneys are filtering blood. Kidneys are filtering blood. So kidneys have a vein that is going out, and also an artery that is coming in. Right, an artery that is coming in, because what, at the end of the day, kidneys are filtering blood. Right, at the end of the day, the kidneys are filtering blood. So this is the basic structure of a kidney. And what is the functional unit? There is the nephron. Right. How many nephrons are there? If you take one kidney, there's about 1 million nephrons functional. Take a Honda kidney kaknang, if it's an adult, nicely working kidney, there should be about 1 million proper uh, nephrons in one kidney. Right. So both together you have about 2 million nephrons. Right. Then you have, I think I explained the structure of a nephron. You have a glomerulus. Right. Glomerulus is the ball of capillaries that is found inside the Bowman's capsule. Then you have the proximal convoluted tubule. Then you have the descending limb of loop of Henle, ascending limb of loop of Henle, and the distal convoluted tubule, and then the collecting duct. Right. So ultrafiltration. Right. So step one, let's quickly revise. Okay. So ultrafiltration. What? Why do we call it ultrafiltration? Ultra, it is a filtration, but why do we call it ultrafiltration? Because if you take your Bowman's capsule, it's like a mehema, it's like a cup. Your Bowman's capsule is like a cup, right? And the blood should filter into this cup. So there's a blood vessel that is bringing blood into this cup, then there's a blood vessel taking blood away from this cup. The blood vessel bringing blood into this cup is actually called can. The blood vessel bringing blood is called the afferent, right? The afferent arteriole. Bringing blood is called, yes, afferent. Then take a pay a closer look. How did I draw this? Right, it is called the afferent because you can see its cross section area is greater than the blood vessel that is taking out. That is called the efferent. Okay. This is going to increase the pressure. You know this, right? If the output or the outgoing channel is smaller than the incoming, there's going to be a pressure difference. No? So there's going to be a high pressure produced in this Bowman's capsule that is going to help the filtration of blood. On the pressure kalla, if you send the blood, that is going to help the filtration of blood into this Bowman's capsule. Right? That's the purpose of having different diameters for the efferent arteriole and the afferent. හොඳට වචන දෙක මතක තියාගන්න. This is එන එක afferent, එළියට යන එක efferent. Right? So blood gets filtered through the wall of the glomerulus and the inner wall of the Bowman's capsule and collected in the cavity of Bowman's capsule. This is ultrafiltration. So whatever that is coming here is called as what? Glomerular filtrate. glomerular filtrate. So next onwards, what are we going to do? We are going to take more things from this glomerular filtrate or add more things to this glomerular filtrate. If we are putting more things into this, it's called what? We are secreting. If we are taking things out, it's called selective reabsorption. Okay, those things are going to happen in the next upcoming stages. So අපි මෙහෙමම දිගටම continue කරගෙන ගියොත් then selective reabsorption. What is going to happen in selective reabsorption? Yes. Things that are in this glomerular filtrate, the things that are in this glomerular filtrate that you need, they got filtered, but the body needs them back. The body needs them for the functioning of the body. What are the things that you need to take back? What are the things that you need to take back? Right? නිකන් අර වැරදිලා filter වුණා වගේ, right? No, it's not වැරදිලා because this glomerular or the Bowman's capsule membrane, it's a small, it has very small holes, right? So the small molecules can get filtered, but in those small molecules you can have useful things. What are the useful things that you can't remove? You can't get rid of glucose, right? Glucose ටික ගියොත් you are not going to have enough energy. So glucose must be taken back. Amino acids, right? Proteins, you can't lose the proteins. Okay, you can't lose the proteins. You have to keep the proteins. Okay, then what else? You can't lose your vitamins. You have to reabsorb them, the vitamins. And salts, some of the salts, right? You need to have some salts in your body, no? Right? Okkoma salts you can't remove. Then what else? And a small amount of urea can be reabsorbed because that is එක ඕනකමින් නෙවෙයි. Okay, you are reabsorbing this urea not intentionally, it can come back passively. Okay, okay, we don't want the urea, but it can come back, it can be reabsorbed unintentionally. And some drugs also can be reabsorbed. Okay, so they say the volume of glomerular filtrate is about 120 cubic centimeters, but 95% is reabsorbed. Yes, even though a lot of glomerular filtrate is produced, 95% of it will be selectively reabsorbed because most of that filtrate contains the things the body needs. Okay, so selective reabsorption. Then we come to what? Secretion. We come to secretion. Secretion means things that are not selectively that things that were not filtered in the glomerulus should be, we should add them into the urine. We should like actively remove them. They are not going to get filtered in the glomerulus, so we have to actively remove them. So that is what we do in secretion, right? What are the things that we actively remove by secretion? H plus, we actively remove. K plus, potassium ions. What else? NH3, NH4 plus ions, ammonium. What else? Creatinine. Creatinine කියලා කියන්නේ, it's a product that is produced in your muscles when you are breaking down something called creatine. Okay, when you are breaking down something called creatine, you get a product called creatinine. So creatinine you have to remove by secretion. And vitamin B. Okay. Hands up anyone who had vitamin B pills, vitamin B sort of capsules. Have you had vitamin B capsules? Have you drunk vitamin B capsules? If you have, you might have experienced that after maybe an hour of drinking vitamin B capsules, your urine turns yellow. Your urine turns yellow. Okay, because the vitamin B is going to be secreted into the urine at the kidneys. So your urine is going to turn very yellow. Normal yellow, it's going to become very, very yellow color because of the excessive vitamin B. Okay. So that is excretion. Any questions? Then we can come back to the question that we were actually talking about, the paper, right? Um, Kidneys are considered as the main organs which perform nitrogenous excretion in humans. What is excretion? What is the definition of excretion? Removal of waste products. Removal of waste products from the body that are produced during metabolism. ඔය දෙකම කියන්න ඕන. They are produced during metabolism. Okay, you have to say that. Name a nitrogenous excretory product. Right? You can say urea, uric acid. Actually, we don't produce uric acid that much. As humans, our human kidneys don't produce much uric acid, but it's fine, right? What is the structural and functional unit of the kidneys? What is it? The nephron, no? Right? Kidneys are made of nephrons, and kidneys work because of the nephrons. So, structural means what? They are composed of nephrons, and also they work because of the individual nephrons. So, they are the functional units. One step in forming urine is secretion. Briefly describe how secretion works. Yes. How does secretion work? We just talked about it. How do you describe secretion? ඒක මෙහෙමයි තියෙන්නේ, right? Some materials in the blood capillaries surrounding the nephron are entered into the urine. Some materials in the capillaries surrounding the nephron are entered into the urine. What are the things that we talked about? H plus, potassium, K plus, ammonium, creatinine, drugs, vitamin B. Those are the things that are what? Secreted. Two other steps. Kanban, what are the two other steps? You can say ultrafiltration and yes, selective reabsorption. Ultrafiltration and selective reabsorption. Got it? Any other question that you want me to discuss? Uh, okay, we can do this one. All these are, yes, all these are other questions. No? Yes. Oh, no, wait. There was a question here, right? So we can, I want to quickly move on to the plant reproduction part as well. Yes, quickly do this. Quickly do this question. Okay, yeah. The chats are enabled, right? You can send me messages. Yes. Okay. Shall we discuss this? Okay. Have you done these past papers? I'm curious. Have you done this? Okay. Others? The best revision is to study with past papers. Okay. The best revision is to study with past papers. Okay. Name two vertebrates. මොනවද මේ ඉන්නේ vertebrates ලා snail, lizard, greater cuckoo. Aticula. Okay, right. I needed to know what is greater cuckoo. Okay. Uh, P has a thin, long, and vermiform body. Body is divided into equal segments. Bears jointed legs and wings. Okay. Two vertebrates. Vertebrates means they have a vertebral column. Who are the vertebrates? Ken. Your lizard. Your lizard is a Ken. What is the class of lizard? Is a reptile. No? Is a reptile. So what else? This is a bird. No, Aticula is a bird. No. So aves. So you can say those are vertebrates. Okay. Snails is a mollusk. A thin, long, vermiform body divided into equal segments. What are we talking about here? Methane tagga kiwwa gama equal segments. It's a segmented worm, so it's an annelid. Ne? Bears jointed legs and wings. Methane tagga when you see jointed legs, you're going to see arthropod. Right. What is the main characteristics on which this, with the inclusion of those animals in the vertebrate group is based? Presence of what? Yes. Why are we calling them vertebrate? Because of they have a vertebral column. They have a vertebral column. That is the main reason. That's why we call them vertebrates. According to above observations, what's the animal phylum to which P belongs? It's an annelid, name. Do you know what is this segmentation? ඔගොල්ලෝ දන්නවද මොකක්ද මේ segmentation කියන්නේ කියලා? Do you know this? No? Yes. ඒක මෙහෙම scene එකක්. Okay? Something like this. If you take an annelid, right? If you take an annelid is like this. Okay? So if you take an annelid, this is an earthworm. So an earthworm is an annelid. Right? You can see from the outside, you can see this sort of ring section. නේද? Have you seen an earthworm up close? ළඟට දැකලා තියෙනවද? Right? So if you cut this earthworm and take a look inside, you can see they have this sort of partitions. They have this sort of walls and walls that are separating the worm into, let's say, rooms and rooms. We call those sections as segments. So each segment has part of their blood circulatory system, part of their excretory system, part of their reproductory system. Everything is included in those sections. So that's why we call these annelids as segmented worms. Okay. You can see their digestive system. This is the digestive tube that is going through the entire length. until their anus, right? Until their anus. Got it? So this is why we call them segmented worms. And if I show you a bit of about these echinodermates, just for your fun, right? Echinodermates, it's a starfish, right? It's a starfish. Do you know what these are called? These sort of small dots and dots are getting. What are those? Anyone? What do you call those? Send me in the chat. What are those things? Those are tube feet, right? Those are tube feet. Tube feet are part of echinodermates. What? Tube feet are part of echinodermates. Yes, circulatory system, right? Circulatory system, right? So that is kind of interesting. And also you can see this echinodermates. This is the anus. This is the anus of the starfish, and this is the mouth of the starfish, which is on the underside. Starfish sort of mouth එක තියෙන්නේ on the underside of the animal, right? Mouth is on the underside of the animal, right? Okay. So those are a few things that you need to know about the starfish, and yeah, basically all those things. Okay, right. Coming to the paper, according to above observations, okay, we did that one. Then okay. So another common characteristic specific to the animal species of the phylum to which Q belongs. Q means arthropods. What are the other things? You can see two or three segments. What are the segments? You can say head, thorax, and abdomen, and then a chitinous exoskeleton. Chitinous exoskeleton. What do you mean by an exoskeleton? It's a skeleton located on the outside. It's a skeleton located on the outside. Okay. What sort of skeleton do we have? What sort of skeleton do we have? What sort of skeleton do we have? Can you see your skeleton? Okay, okay. Panapiting inward, can you see your skeleton? No. Because why? We have what we call as a endoskeleton. We have what we call as an endoskeleton. So because of that, you can't see your skeleton and have a that sort of skeleton, which is an endoskeleton. Okay. Yeah. Anyone, any other phylum that has an exoskeleton, skeleton on the outside? Is it okay to have a, I mean, okay, there's a question. Is it okay to have an exoskeleton? There's a big problem with having an exoskeleton. What is the big problem with having an exoskeleton? Can anyone tell me what is the biggest problem with having an exoskeleton? What is the problem having an exoskeleton? It's like you have been put into a like a hard cage, no? You are inside your skeleton. So what does that mean? That means you can't continuously grow. You can't get bigger continuously. So arthropods, what do they have to do? They have to what we call as shed their exoskeleton. අපිට ඒකට කියනවා molting molting. They have to remove their exoskeleton from time to time so that they can continue to get bigger, right? Continue to grow. Otherwise, their skeleton is going to restrict their growth. Okay. Set a favorable effect and unfavorable effect that can be expected to cause what are they asking? Expected to have caused by Q on the crop. Insects. Like insects, like kelima insects are very sort of right? Different kinds of insects are there. There are good insects and there are bad insects, right? I'm not going to write. You can write down. What are the favorable effects? You can say insects contribute for pollination. No? taking the male pollen and depositing on a female flower stigma, right? They can what they can do? What are they asking? Q, ne? Okay. Q. Soil insects are there. Soil insects can increase the soil water. Sorry, soil air. Then they can loosen the soil. They can control other plant pests, right? Then those are the things sort of favorable. Unfavorable, they can act as pets. Insects, like you know, right? Caterpillars and those things are the worst sort of pests in a crop. Then they can spread diseases. They can, when they go from one plant to the other, they can take diseases. There are viral diseases affecting plants. There are bacterial diseases, right? They can destroy crops, consume leaves, flowers, and fruits. All those things can be done by insects. State a primary consumer and a secondary consumer, respectively, in the food chain that contains the animal observed in the okra cultivation. Okra. What are the consumers and secondary? Yes, bandak. Okra kila කියන්නේ bandak, right? In this okra cultivation, what are the secondary and primary consumers and secondary consumers? Pay very close attention. They are asking consumers. Huh? They are asking consumers. All right. So you cannot have any crops. So what is the primary consumer that you can see? That primary consumer, what is the feature? Yes. Primary consumers always have to be herbivores, right? Because they are going to eat, they are going to have to eat a plant. No? A primary consumer is always a plant eating organism. Neither. It's always a plant eating organism. So primary consumer, what's the best primary consumer? It's a snail. No? Then the secondary consumer should eat this primary consumer. That is a, you can say you are atikukul, right? You are cowcal. A newspaper has printed the greater kukul scientific name as Centropus sinensis. What are the two errors that you can see? Okay, what are the rules of binomial nomenclature? What are the rules of binomial nomenclature? Whenever you are printing a scientific name, it has to be what? Italicized. Italics means what? Italicized karanlu. Then what is the other problem? The second word, first letter should be a simple letter. No? So you have to say the first letter of the specific epithet. This is called the specific epithet. No? The specific epithet cannot be capital. It has to be simple. Or you can say only this generic name first letter can be capital. No? So those are the errors. Okay. Okay. Then this is something physics, no? Yeah, it's physics. Right? Yeah. So let's quickly come to okay. There's another. What do you say? This question we can do after doing tissues. This question we can do after doing tissues. Okay. I want to quickly finish reproduction as well. Api, shall we finish animal plant reproduction quickly and come here? Okay. Let's quickly finish reproduction and come. Need a break? Okay. Then 15 minutes. Right. 15-minute break. Huh? Okay. Understand. Understood. Okay. Right. Take a break. 15 minutes. Then it's plant reproduction. Okay. what's happening here. Okay, I'll. Okay, uh, let's continue. Athene the break. Yes, break is enough, right? Send messages to the main chat. Okay, it's very difficult to individually open the chats. Okay, right. Okay, Taggala come to your plant reproduction because otherwise I feel very bad. I didn't complete this section. Okay, so in your page number, so we start. I mean, continuity of life. You actually are supposed to start with plant reproduction, but I started with human reproductive system. Okay, Taggala right? Sexual reproduction is the tricky part, right? So that's what we are going to cover, right? Sexual reproduction, because there are some concepts that I want you to have uh, that I think even at this stage some students are a bit confused about. Okay, Taggala right? Sexual reproduction of plants, page number 35, right? Follow the your textbook while you're following this, whatever I'm displaying on the board, okay? Sexual reproduction, you need, I mean, whenever you have sexual reproduction, you have the production of seeds associated with it. A seed is a dispersal unit. It's a package that is ready to be dispersed to a further location, and it will grow into a big plant. So a seed is a dispersal unit that is produced due to sexual reproduction by the fusion of two gametes, right? So if you take your flowering plant, so plants can do sexual reproduction in several ways, but here we are going to, you will learn that when you come to A levels, how different sexual reproductions are there in different types of flowers, sorry, in plants. But if you take your flowering plants, the flower is the structure modified to do reproduction or sexual reproduction. So you need to be able to label the structures of a flower. So let's quickly label. So if you take this flower, this is what we call as a bisexual flower. Why do we call it a bisexual flower? It has both male and female parts on the same flower, right? So what are the male parts? This, your anther, and the anther is connected to the flower, so the main body of the flower, by the filament, right? So we call the male portion of a flower as a whole as androecium, right? Yes, with time, let's see. I will take another half an hour to finish this plant reproduction. Then we'll move on to yes, other systems. Right? We'll try to cover as much as possible. Okay, I'll switch. Come back to animal, sorry, body systems or processes after this. Okay, we'll try to finish as much as possible today. Okay, so the male section of a flower altogether is known as the androecium. Then we come to the female parts. This is the part where you get the pollen grain. The pollen grain will be deposited here. That is called the stigma. And that stigma is connected to this dilated part, that is where that will become the fruit, that is called the ovary. The ovary will become the fruit later. Palaturak wenna eka. So the stigma is connected to the ovary by the style, which is like a long tube. So that is the female part, which is called the gynoecium. Gynoecium. Okay, gynoecium. මේ වගේ spellings හොඳට බලන්න යන්න before going to the exam. Then we have what we call as sterile floral parts. Sterile means they don't involve in reproduction, but they are parts of the flower. So you have the sepals. Sepals sort of protect the flower when it is not open yet. Sepals are there. Then these colorful parts are called your petals. And this is sort of the holding structure, that is sort of the base of the flower, is called the receptacle. අපි කියනවා මලේ නටුව කියලා කියන්නේ, like the shaft of the leaf of the flower that is sort of connecting the flower to the body, that is called the, yes, pedicel. Quickly go take into your minds this labeling, very very important. Okay, quickly take into your minds this labeling. So what do you mean by a flower? It's the structure that bears sexual parts of a plant. Parts of a flower that are arranged in whorls on what? Arranged in whorls on what? On the receptacle, which is located at the tip of what? The pedicel. We can call the pedicel as the flower stalk. මලේ නටුව කියලා කියන්න පුළුවන් in single, flower stalk. Okay, so the flower parts of flower are arranged on whorls. What do you mean by whorls? It's like a sort of circular arrangement, like a sort of all these parts are arranged in a circle, right, on the receptacle, which is located at the tip of the pedicel or the flower stalk. Okay, Tagalenna, you need to know the individual functions of these groups of, let's say, floral organs. Okay, so calyx is the name that we give for the sepals. It's a name that we give for the sepals, right? I'm not going to write the functions. What is the function of the sepals or the calyx that is composed of sepals, right? It protects the flower parts when the flower is in bud stage, right? So protection when the flower is still a bud. Again, the flower hasn't bloomed yet. Okay, take them into your mind for the last time. Okay, then we come to corolla, which is composed of petals. Corolla is composed of petals. Petals have several, let's say, functions, right? Uh, Corolla can protect the inner flower parts in the bud stage, and most importantly, if the petals are colorful, they can attract pollinators, pollinating insects or animals. They can attract pollinators because they have colorful, I mean, the petals are colorful. Okay, then that is the corolla or the male part. Then the androecium, you can call it the stamen as well. Stamen and pistil, these are sort of bit old fashioned names, right? These are bit old fashioned names, the stamen and pistil. Androecium, it is composed of anther and filament, right? So in the, if you take the anther, it has what we call as pollen sacs. So pollen sacs produce pollen. Okay, pollen sacs produce pollen. Then if you take your gynoecium or the pistil a bit old fashioned, in your ovary, if you take your ovary, inside the ovary you have several ovules. Ovules contain eggs or ovum, right? So ovules will come into contact with the pollen, that will result in a fertilization, right? That's what's going to happen. So fill in these blanks when you have time. Okay. Then we come to something very, very important. What is bisexual and unisexual, right? So we මෙතන කතා කරලිමු what is first let's talk about unisexual flowers, right? Flowers that consist of either male or female. දෙකෙන් එකයි. Either male or female, right? Only one, let's say, uh, gender is located in the single flower, right? There are male flowers separately, there are female flowers separate. So staminate flowers means they only have stamen or the androecium. They are only male flowers, right? They are only male flowers. So if you take pumpkin, you have male flowers. If you take corn, they have male flowers. Staminate progama opposite is the pistillate flowers. They have only gynoecium or pistil. They are only female, right? So if you take this diagram, this is a male pumpkin flower. This is a female pumpkin flower. How can you see that? This is because you can see here a lot of pollen grains are being produced. But if you can see here, this ovary, so actually this flower has become fertilized. This flower has become fertilized and it is on the way to be developed into a pumpkin. It is on the way to be developed into a pumpkin. Okay. So the only type of flower that can produce a fruit is a female. It's like the human population. No? Only the females can become pregnant, right? So only a female flower can produce a fruit or produce seeds and then become a fruit. Okay. So that is unisexual flowers. Unisexual flowers are of two types. Males are staminate, females are pistillate. Right. So bisexual is the other way around. They have both male and female parts on the same flower. Right. Shoe flower. So this, I think, this flower that we use as the typical sort of labeling flower. This is what it's very close to a, like it's like a shoe flower, right? So you can see it has the male and female parts on the same flower, right? So this is a shoe flower. Okay. So there are other examples. Please remember those. Katurumurunga, okay, agathya, chili, passion fruit. Those are bisexual flowers. Then we come to the plants. So as a plant, if you take as a whole, right? If you have, what do you mean by a monoecious plant? right? Plants that bear both staminate and pistillate in the same plant. That means there are male flowers as well as female flowers on the same plant. On the same plant. Okay. So if you take coconut, right, this is an example for a what? Monoecious. 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 For the last time, I matkutiyagan hambili. Monoecious plants means they have both male and female flowers on the same plant. Okay. So in the coconut, can you see these smalls are, have you seen in sort of wedding ceremonies you have, and in sort of decoration purposes we take these sort of small, like you take the coconut flower, right? So there you can might have seen these small seed like things, that is actually the parts of the male flower. These big things are your actual ovaries that are going to become coconut, I mean coconuts. Okay. So the coconut tree has both male and female on the same plant. Okay. So this is again a similar thing, right? These are female and these small ones are male. These small ones are male, right? So what do you mean by monoecious? I will. That's what I always tell to my A-level students as well. Monoecious means there is only one tree. Okay, එක ගහයි තියෙන්නේ. That tree has both male and female, right? When you come to dioecious, there are two trees. There is a male tree, there's a female tree. So what can you say about this one? මට ටක් ගාලා කියන්න බලන්න. Is this a male tree or a female tree? A කියලා තියෙන්නේ. Quickly. It's female. Why do you say that it's female? Why do you say that it's female? It has fruits. Very simple. Only the female is able to produce fruits. So what type of flowers do this female plant have? They only have female flowers. So this is a male coconut, sorry, pepo tree. Pepo, gaslabu. This is a male pepo tree. It is not able to produce any fruits because it's male. So dioecious. Di means there are two plants. There's a male plant and a female plant. Okay. Monoecious means there is only one plant having both male and female on the same plant. Understood? Okay. Right. Moving on. Then we move on to pollination. This is a concept I won't go into much detail because there is something wrong in what you are taught, but I won't correct it at this point. Right. Pollination is a process of depositing matured pollen of a flower onto the stigma of a flower of the same species. This is the key word. This is the word you cannot miss when you are writing this definition. You have to take pollen. It has to be mature pollen, and you are putting it on the stigma of a flower. It has to be the same species, right? Between two species, you cannot have any pollination, right? Then there are two types of pollination as self-pollination and cross-pollination. You can see there is a pollen, there's a anther here. You can see, right? There's an anther here. This anther produces pollen, and that pollen will go and deposit on the stigma of the same flower. That is self-pollination. Now you can see this is one plant, this is one separate plant. There is another plant of the same species. Very careful. There is another plant of the same species. So this pollen from this anther is going to go and deposit on this stigma. That is called cross pollination. Right? Got it? Understood? So according to your syllabus, on the stigma of a flower of the same plant or the flower of another plant. So You can see between these two flowers, it is also cross. Between these two plants, also it is cross, which is wrong. But okay. What is self pollination? Same flower within the same flower, and it is self pollination. Understood? Okay. Moving on. Okay. So that is about pollination. Understood, right? Pollination for the final time. Got it? Okay. What is the importance of cross pollination? You have to be explain. You have to be able to explain this, right? Cross pollination allows the mixing of characteristics of two plants. It helps to give the plant a strong new generation with new characteristics, right? Therefore, some flowers are adapted to avoid self pollination and cross pollination, right? So you have to say, why are we promoting cross pollination? Yes, it allows to mix characteristics. It allows mixing of characteristics, and also, yes, this produces a strong new generation. This produces a strong new generation. Then we have to talk about Mevahanawa, right? What are the adaptations that plants have to promote cross fertilization? So cross fertilization is better. So how are plants adapted to promote this? So you have to somehow do what is best, no? Right? So having unisexual flowers. So you understand, if you have only male or female flowers that are separate, then what cannot happen? This cannot happen, right? Sorry, this self fertilization cannot happen because why? Your male and female flowers are separated. So you are the pollen from the same flower can't deposit on the sigma of the same flower because why? It's only a male plant. Sorry, it's only a male flower or it's only a female flower, right? So that avoids self fertilization. Then self sterility. So let's imagine somehow the pollen of a same flower got deposited on the same stigma, but that is not going to do anything. Fruits are not developed because why? They are self sterile. They are self sterile. Fruits are not developed. Then hercogamy is something interesting, right? Right. I'll explain. It's a position of stamens and stigma of a flower at a distance, right? Hercogamy and dichogamy, and those are all those are some. I think I have given here. Yes, hercogamy. Can you see here? You can see this is the stigma, right? This is the stigma here, and the sort of the anther is located a bit above, right? Anther is a bit located above. So that means there's a distance between the anther or the pollen grains and the stigma. So this avoids self fertilization. Okay, this avoids self fertilization. Okay, then I'll explain dichogamy here as well. Right, dichogamy means both anther and the let's say stigma are not ready at the same time. You understand? So when the anther is mature and producing pollen, the stigma is not ready to receive the pollen. So self fertilization is avoided, right? On the other way, and when the stigma is ready to receive pollen, the anther is not ready producing pollen. That is called dichogamy, right? That is called dichogamy. So you can say the male, so stamen is male, male mature earlier than pistil, or pistil is mature earlier than stamens. Pistil means what? Female. So it has two versions as proterandry and protogeny. Okay. So if the male is mature earlier, that is called proterandry, androsium. Okay. Androsium mature earlier, proterandry. If the pistil is mature earlier than stamens, that means the female is ready before the male. Protogeny. Gynoecium is ready before the male. Got it? එමයි මතක තියා. Cone and tridacts. Right? Then this one, having extrostamens, the stigma is straight or the stamens are bent. Again, the stigma at the center is straight and the stamens are sort of gone to the side. Or the stamens are straight or the stigma is bent to the side. I think this is the Lebbeck flower, right? Pinner. Okay. You can see the stigma are located at the center and the styles, sorry, not styles, filaments are gone to a side. Right? Filaments are sort of located to a side of the flower, right? So it's like this. So extros means you can see, right? The stigma is here and this anther are facing outwards. Sigma is at the center and the anthers are facing outwards. So this is being extros. Intros means on the other side. That means the sigma is here and the anther are facing here. That means it's going to facilitate the self-pollination. So this is bad. This is not good. Having extrostamens is good. Because why? Your anthers are bent to the side. Got it? Any question? Anyone who want me to explain this again? Understood, right? Okay, right. So these things I thought these are a bit tricky in your syllabus, right? Be very careful. I mean, better to study these again if you can't remember. Okay. Um, moving on to pollination. Okay, right. So now, what is hercogamy? Yeah, okay. You want to know what is hercogamy again, right? Hercogamy is this positioning of stamens and stigma at a distance. So if they are located at a distance, that means it's the chance of connecting. I mean, the chance of having this pollen of the uh, anther depositing on the stigma is reduced, because why? You can see in this the stigma is short and the sort of the filament is long, so the anther is located is a bit above. So that means it's a chances of this pollen depositing on the stigma is unlikely. And on this other one, right, the stamens, sorry, the filament is very short and it's located sort of inside. Therefore, again, the pollen grains depositing on the same stigma is reduced. That is hercogam. Okay. Got it. Moving on to pollination. So different ways of pollination. Okay. Right. It's taggala make your It's different ways of pollination. There are so many agents of pollination, right? There are three agents that you need to know. Animals, right? So animals contribute. I mean, yes, because plants provide a lot of animal nutrition. Therefore, animals interact with plants a lot. So during those interactions, the animals can do pollination. So what are the adaptations that flowers that are pollinated by animals have? These things you have to remember. They have a fragrance. They have නිකන් අර මෙහෙමයි. So a flower that is pollinated by an animal is like a shop that is doing an advertisement. So if you are going along a shop, what are the things that are going to attract you to go inside? Imagine it's a food shop, right? It's a food restaurant. A nice food smell is going to attract you to go inside. So that is why they should have a fragrance. Then flowers are colorful. Imagine you are going on the outside of a new supermarket or maybe a new Bing Chon එකක් වගේ එකක්. They have this sort of attractive colors, no, bright blue colors, right? So the flowers are very colorful. Then having nectaries. What do you mean by nectaries? Nectaries produce nectar. Nectar means what? It's a sugary sort of fluid that insects and animals can feed on, right? So it's like you are going outside a new restaurant and they have a promotion, or a supermarket, they have promotion. They are distributing something for free. Okay, nectaries. Pollen being sticky. Pollen are sticky. That means unintentionally the pollen grains are going to stick to the animal's body, and when they go to a different flower, that pollen grains are going to be deposited there. Pollen is sticky. Or the stigma is sticky. So somehow the pollen got, I mean, they are bringing pollen to a flower, and the stigma is sticky, so that they are going to, the pollen grains are going to stick to the stigma. Then what else? Then you can say the stigma and the pollen grains are sort of located sort of very outside the flower. So that any animal that is actually නිකන් ළඟින් යන animal කෙනෙක්වත්, any animal who's going very close to the flower even are going to get in contact with the pollen grains. Okay. Or shapes that cheat insects. So sometimes flowers they can look like other animals. Okay. They can look like other animals. They can look edible, but they are not edible. Or okay, there can be some ways of flowers that can cheat insects. Okay. So passion fruit, wing bean, katurumurunga, or other. Then wind pollinated flowers have complete set of additional modifications. What are they? Right. So if you are wind pollinated, the pollen grains are going to come with the wind, and if the flower is not very sort of located above the plant, these pollen grains are not going to come into contact. It's like an aerial, no? Imagine you have an antenna, TV antenna, it should be above everything. If you have trees in your garden, the TV antenna should be above those trees, right? Otherwise, it's not going to get a good signal. So these flowers should be borne at the apex. So aerophilous flowers, that means the flowers that are pollinated by wind should be produced at the apex of the plant. Then the chances of pollination of a wind pollinated plant is very low. So in order to increase the probability, you need to produce a large number of pollen. Large amount of pollen you have to produce, otherwise, because why? It's wind pollinated, no? It's like a random thing. You are spraying pollen. So if you want to be successful, you have to produce a large number of pollen. Okay. Then large number of pollen is produced. Pollen is very small and light. Otherwise, it won't go with the wind. No? Pollen small and light. These are obvious things. හිතලා වුණත් ලියන්න පුළුවන්, right? Small and light. Stigma is branched. So it's like an antenna. The stigma is like an antenna. So any pollen grains that are coming in the wind can be in contact with the stigma because the stigma is branched. And also stigma can be sticky also. Flowers are in inflorescence. That means what? An inflorescence is like a group of flowers. It's like a massive collection of flowers that are all together, all have gotten together to form sort of a complex flower. Like a coconut flower, right? Coconut flower, that is an inflorescence. So when the flowers are together, they form a big structure. So that means they have a higher chance of coming into contact with these pollen grains. Okay, right. Then water pollinated, right? Water pollinated plants, they have their own adaptations, right? They are called hydrophilous, right? Usually, the matured, the staminate flower. That means what? Staminate means the male flower detaches. The male flower separates from the female plant. Sorry, male flower separates from its sort of male flower separates from the plant and it floats on water. Then, when it meets a female one, pollination occurs. Right? The example is Vallisneria. Okay. Any questions that you have? So the male flower separates and floats in water, and that will come into contact. So this is actually something I just put in just for your interest, right? ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ syllabus එකේ only the simplified version of this is given. This is how actually a flowering plant actually performs sexual reproduction, right? How fertilization happens. You don't need this much detail, but it's without using the simplified diagram. I just wanted to show you what is the full story, right? So this is the flower. You have ovaries, you have this ovary, and inside the ovary you have ovules, right? This is the magnified image of an ovule, right? Inside the ovule, you are going to have what? Inside the ovule, you are going to have an egg, okay? Then this is the male side. So this is a pollen grain. This is a pollen, and the pollen is going to come with an animal or wind or usually. Then it's going to get deposited on the stigma here, right? Pollen grain is deposited on the stigma. Then something very interesting happens. Something called a pollen tube. Mameka, I think I told you last time also. A pollen tube is produced. This pollen tube is like a um, escalator. Have you seen an escalator that is going to help you get down, get up, right, in a mall or something, right? This pollen tube is like helping this pollen, not actually the pollen, the sperm produced by the pollen to reach the ovule, right? Can you see? Now, in this diagram, you can see here, the pollen tube has grown through the style and it is going to reach one of the ovules. So, it is delivering the sperm into the ovules. Can you see? The pollen tube has grown into the ovule. So, the sperms have been delivered to the egg. Sperms have been delivered to the egg. Pollen tube grows through the style and reaches the ovule. So this is fertilization. This fertilization is going to lead to an embryo. This is the embryo. That embryo will, I mean, this is a full mature seed now. That seed, if it's nicely germinated, it will become a mature plant. This is the life story of a flowering plant. Understood? Any questions you have? right? Any questions? I don't understand your question. Yes, sperms are produced from meiosis. Yes, sperms are produced from meiosis. එහෙම කියන්න පුළුවන්. Okay, then moving on to the next step. What's going to happen next? When the pollen grain is deposited on the stigma, it is stimulated by what? What is the stimulation for the pollen grain? Why is the pollen grain going to germinate? Can someone tell me? Why is the pollen grain going to germinate? Yes, why is the pollen grain going to germinate when it is deposited on the stigma? Yes, because there is a sugar solution. There's a sugar solution on the stigma. Okay, this sugar solution is going to stimulate the germination of the pollen grain. So a pollen tube grows through the style towards the ovule. The male gamete in the pollen cell fuses with the ovum. What is the male gamete? This is the sperm fuses with the ovary, and this phenomenon is known as fertilization. This is fertilization. Okay. Um, yes, if you take the human reproduction as well as the plant sexual reproduction, everything is here in the tube, right? But I use this tube as a guide to teach you as well only, right? At this stage, I recommend that you study the text, right? At this stage, I recommend that you study the text, right? I have to be honest with you, right? The best thing is that you study the your textbook, okay? Production of fruit. Can you see in this diagram? You can clearly see Mehariya, you still have the flowers, and on this side you have the fruits. So you can see a nice transitioning of the flowers to the fruits. You can see a nice transitioning of the flowers to the fruits, right? So this is very very important. This section, pay close attention. Pay close attention, right? Pay very very close attention, right? What is the fate? What happens to these individual structures after fertilization? What these parts of the fruit, sorry, these parts of the flower, what is going to happen to them? Very, very important. MCQs are asked so frequently. So you have a zygote after fertilization. A zygote you have. That zygote is going to become what? It's going to become an embryo. Neither. So the embryo is found within the seed. Ovary will develop to form the fruit. No, ovary will be the fruit. Ovary has several ovules. Ovary will be the fruit. The wall of the ovary will become the wall of the fruit, which is called the pericarp. Fertilized ovule develops into a, yes. So the ovule, pay close attention. They are asking ovary here ovule. The ovule becomes a seed. Then palaturak, if you take a fruit, it has several seeds inside. No? That is because the ovary had several seeds inside. So the ovule, which is becomes a seed, is found within the fruit. Wall of the ovule becomes the seed coat. Right? The wall of the ovule becomes the seed coat. That is the covering of the seed. Very, very important summary. Okay. Sometimes the petals and sepals, normally the petals, sepals, and the stamens are sort of fallen off. මලක තියෙන ඒවා ටික හැලිලා යනවා when there's a fruit development. But in some flowers, the sepals become fleshy and are attached to the pericarp even after fertilization. Right? Have you seen in mangoes? Mangoes, you have this sort of big fleshy petals again, right? So those are actually petals and sepals that are persisting, or say they are remaining even after fruit development. මේ ටික මතක තියාගන්න. guava, rose apple, brinjal, right? Mangosteen, you have what we call as persistent floral parts. Persistent floral parts that are parts of the flower that are remaining even after becoming a fruit. Then some definitions. We come to the final part. Parthenocarpy. What is the definition of parthenocarpy? Yes, what is the definition of parthenocarpy? Parthenocarpy කියන බං? Yes. Process of developing fruits without fertilization. Fruits without fertilization is called parthenocarpy. Okay. There is no fertilization. There was never a pollen grain involved. There was no male plant involved. But you have a fruit. That is not something, I mean, it can naturally occur as well. It can occur naturally as well. But we have developed such a seedless. The biggest thing is these sort of parthenocarpic flowers are seedless. They don't have seeds because why? If you want a seed, you have to have fertilization. These are seedless. What are the examples? You have seedless grapes, seedless oranges, seedless apples, right? Parthenocarpic fruits are seedless. හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න. Right? Then we come to seed germination. Right? Seed germination. What is the definition of seed germination? Okay. So these seed dispersal, please read. Dispersal of seeds, please. I want you to read. I mean, nothing for me to teach there. Right? Seed dispersal can happen by animals, can happen by water, can happen by wind, by explosive mechanisms. Right? At least remember one example for each. How fruits are uh, dispersed by animals, dispersed by wind, or dispersed by water. Right? Please remember some examples. I'm only going to cover the most important things. Okay. We come to seed germination. What's happening in seed germination? First thing is you have to wake up the seed. Grapes, orange, and apple have seeds. Yes, but in parthenocarpic fruits, those parthenocarpic fruits are developed with human technology. Right? We can use artificial growth substances or sometimes even genetic engineering to sort of manipulate or change these plants so that they produce produce fruits without seeds, right? Those are not natural, right? Okay. Seed germination is always has to do with you have to wake up the seed, right? Seed එක ගොඩක් විට නිදාගෙන ඉන්නේ, right? The seed is usually asleep because the seed is waiting for the best opportunity to start growing. So what do you have to do? You have to activate the embryo. Activation of embryo in the seed and its development to be a seedling. Seedling is like a just germinating seed. What are the factors essential for seed germination? Definitely the seed has to be viable. Viable means what? Anyone? The seed has to be alive. It has to be alive and fertilized. The seed has to be alive and fertilized. No? These are basic things. Then the other basic requirements. What are the basic requirements? You have to have oxygen. You have to have water. You have to have a optimum temperature. Nikam temperature ලියලා you won't get marks. You have to have optimum temperature. Got it? You have to have optimum temperature. Otherwise, the seed won't germinate. Got it? Seed dormancy. This is something that can happen in many seeds. The seed is just waiting for the right time. The seed is very picky. Okay, because why is the seed very picky? Why is the seed so careful? Because the seed is a very small thing usually, and usually it has a little, only a small amount of stored food. Stored food thini chutta. So it cannot take any second chances. So imagine the seeds start to germinate, but suddenly the water availability or the temperature was changed. So can the seed try again? No, because it had only a limited number of resources. So it is going to, so they have to remain silent until the conditions are optimal, right? So do not germinate even though the essential factors for germination are fulfilled, right? So sometimes because of other things, so all these essential factors are there, but sometimes the protective features of the seeds that were there to protect the seeds can prevent the seeds from germinating as well. What are the factors? Right. Sometimes, so you can say it's an adaptation for adverse conditions. Also, sometimes the embryo is not properly mature. That's why the seed is not germination. Embryo is not mature. That's why the seed is not germinate. Or sometimes the seed coat is impermeable. What do you mean by the seed coat? There's another name for the seed coat given called the testa. Testa is a seed coat that is impermeable for either oxygen or water. Various methods can be practiced, right? If you have anyone in your family that is doing at least some cultivation, some gardening, your mother or someone, they will show you some of the things they do, right? Sometimes if they bring some new packet of seeds, they keep the seeds for some time before directly planting, right? Or sometimes orange seeds again, that's an example given. You have to remove the seed coat very carefully. You have to remove the seed coat, otherwise it's the seed is going to be dormant, right? Then nelly seeds, right? Have you had nelly kala? You can even if you try to bite the nelly seed, you can feel it is very tough. That means the seed coat is very very tough. So when the seed coat is very very tough, nutrients or water and oxygen cannot get into the inside. So you have to crack open the seed. Okay, methods practice to remove the dormancy. Yes. So with that, we are done with plant reproduction. Do you have any questions? We can go and do that paper question that we left. Was it 2019 or 2018? That question that we left behind. Anyone remember? Was it 2019 or 2020? Hold on. I think 2018 or 2019. No, we had a plant reproduction question. Ah, yes, 2019. No? We had one question. This is 2019. Yes. Small question we left behind. This one. No. It's in the essay paper. No. This one. I'm gonna make a right. This one. Of the aquatic plants observed, which is the dioecious plant? Why is it called a dioecious plant? What is the pollinating agent of that plant? Right. Taggalakanbana, this question, I'll give you 1 minute. Yes. Okay. Name, okay. Of the aquatic plants observed, what is the dioecious plant? What do you mean by dioecious? Right. Just taught you, ne? Dioecious means what? Dekai. Dioecious means dekai. That means there is a there are two plants. That means one plant, yes, separate plants. One plant is male and the other plant is female. So there's a staminate. So I mean, you can't. There's a male plant and a female plant. That's basically the idea, right? Yes. So Vallisneria is dioecious. Huh? Vallisneria is dioecious. Why is it called a dioecious plant? Why do we call it a dioecious plant? Yes. There are staminate flowers and pistillate flowers, but the staminate flowers are born on a completely separate plant. There's a completely male plant having only male flowers. There's a completely female plant having only female flowers. Got it? That's why we call them dioecious. What is the pollinating agent? So Vallisneria, no? Vallisneria is water pollinate. Okay. There's a question. Can we say there are male plant and female plants? No. According to your textbook, you have to say staminate flowers and pistillate flowers are born on two plants. කියලා තමයි කියන්නේ. So actually the plant which you have the staminate flowers is the male plant, but according to your textbook, write this: staminate flowers are born on one plant pistillate on one plant. So actually the staminate flowers in a plant is the male plant. Yes, come to A levels and you can write that. Okay, not in O levels. Okay, better stick to the textbook. Okay, understood. Right. Okay, let's quickly come to our systems. Right, systems. I'm going to do as much as I can, and then that will be the end. Okay. Yes. Okay, I think we have a small part to discuss from digestive system as well. I will come if I have time, right? Can we come to respiratory system, right? Let's come to respiratory system first because I think there's a chance of question. Respiratory system. Okay, you want tissues as well. Tissues උත් කරන්න ඕනේ. එහෙනම් ඉතින් රෑ 7 විතර වෙනකන් we have to do. Okay, respiration. Okay.